Marcus Webb woke up on a Tuesday morning, went to the bathroom, brushed his teeth, walked downstairs to the kitchen, and the woman he knew better than anyone else in the world looked at him and called him by the wrong name. She didn't slip. She didn't stutter. She didn't laugh afterward like someone who'd just tripped over their own tongue. She said the name the way you say the name of someone you've known so long you don't even think before you say it. Then he looked at his phone. The phone that was in his pocket, with his fingerprint registered, with his photos in the gallery, and the name on the profile wasn't his. He went to work. Swiped his badge. The gate opened and the display showed a name he had never used in his life. He called his brother. Asked, "What do you call me?" His brother laughed, confused, and said a name that wasn't right. He went back home, opened the document drawer, pulled out his birth certificate. The name on the birth certificate wasn't Marcus Webb, and the handwriting on the folder that held it, that slanted handwriting he would recognize anywhere because it was his, had written by hand, important documents, Daniel. This is the story of how Marcus Webb discovered that he might never have existed. He had slept normally. That's what he kept telling himself in the weeks that followed, trying to find the crack, the exact moment where everything started to break. And there was nothing. Leftover pasta for dinner. A documentary he didn't finish. Brushed his teeth, set his alarm for 6:30, eyes closing slowly next to the woman he knew better than anyone else in the world. Nothing out of place. He woke up to her saying, "Morning, Daniel. Coffee's ready." He didn't respond right away. He blamed it on sleep. Sleep does strange things to what you hear. She was already walking out of the room, her back to him, not waiting for an answer, the way you do when you're talking to someone you know inside out. He went to the bathroom, looked at himself in the mirror. The face was his. Same jaw, same dark circles, the same small scar above his left eyebrow from a bicycle fall when he was 11. Everything exactly where it should be. He breathed. She was probably still half asleep. There was an explanation. He went to the kitchen. She handed him a mug, kissed him on the cheek, and said, "Don't forget you've got a call with Greg at 9. He moved it up. He didn't know any Greg. He worked in logistics, with a team in Germany. There was no Greg. There had never been a Greg. He nodded. Said nothing. The first thing he did when she left the kitchen was pick up his phone. The lock screen photo was him and his wife at a beach he didn't recognize. Both of them laughing. His arm around her. It looked like a real memory. But he didn't have that memory. He unlocked it. Went into settings. In the username field it said, Daniel Mercer. He put the phone face down on the counter. He stood still, that kind of stillness that happens when your brain is working too fast to send signals to the rest of your body. Then he picked it up again. Went to contacts. His mother's name was there. His brother's name was there. Old friends, colleagues, all the right names. But his own profile said Daniel. There was an explanation. He'd set it up wrong at some point. He'd used a fake name for some reason he couldn't remember. There was an explanation. He went to get dressed. The clothes were his. Same style, same size. But on the inside collar of his jacket, the one he wore almost every day, there was a dry cleaning tag written by hand. D. Mercer. He went to work. He knew the route. He'd driven it hundreds of times. The road was right, the building was right, the parking lot was right. That part was normal. But when he swiped his badge at the entrance, the reader flashed green and the display showed, "Welcome, Daniel." He walked to his desk. His desk. With the coffee-stained coaster and the cactus his daughter had given him for his birthday. Everything in its place. His colleague Sandra walked past and said, "You see the email from corporate?" He said yes, just to say something. She stopped, looked at him a second longer than normal. "You okay, Daniel? You look a little pale." He said he was fine. He sat down, opened his email. The sent folder was full of messages signed Daniel Mercer. Weeks of them. Months. Emails about shipments, invoices, meetings, written the way he would write them, with the expressions he would use, but signed with that name. He searched his own name, Marcus Webb, searched the entire inbox. 0 results. At lunch he called his brother. His brother picked up on the second ring, easygoing as always. They talked for a few minutes about nothing, their mother's knee surgery, a football match, and Marcus was almost convincing himself there was a logical explanation for everything, when he said, "I need to ask you something strange." His brother said, "Sure, what's up?" "Say my name." Silence. Short. A slightly confused laugh. "What do you mean?" "Just say my name." A pause. "Daniel, are you messing with me?" He hung up. That night he went through every photograph in the house. The wedding photos showed his face, her face, the church he recognized, but the guest book in one of the photos, slightly blurred in the background, had a name on the cover you could just barely make out. Daniel and Sarah. Not Marcus and Sarah. His daughter's drawings, taped to the fridge the way they always had been, stick figures and suns and lopsided houses, had a signature at the bottom, in the careful handwriting of a child. For Daddy Daniel. He had read those drawings hundreds of times. He had been proud of that handwriting. He had watched her learn to make every single letter. He sat down on the kitchen floor. Not dramatically. He just sat down because standing stopped making sense. He started writing things down, trying to anchor himself. Date of birth. Childhood address. His mother's maiden name. The name of his first dog. He remembered everything with perfect precision. But then the thought came, if everything around him said Daniel, every document, every photo, every person, what did it mean that he remembered being Marcus? Was memory enough? Was memory even reliable? He went to the document drawer. The birth certificate said, Daniel Robert Mercer. The handwriting on the folder that held it was his. The same as always. And the folder was labeled, in his own handwriting, Important Documents, Daniel. He stood in front of that drawer for a stretch of time he couldn't measure. The thought arrived slowly, the way the worst thoughts always do. What if Marcus Webb had never existed? Not in the sense of a conspiracy. Not in the sense of someone having swapped his identity. But what if the man he believed himself to be, the man with the bicycle scar who liked leftover pasta and fell asleep in the middle of documentaries, had simply never been real? What if Marcus was the fiction, and Daniel was the truth, and some internal short-circuit had crossed the wires for one whole night? He fought against it. He didn't want it to be true. But there was one detail, a single detail he couldn't resolve. The scar above his left eyebrow, the one he had always traced back to a bicycle fall at age 11. He couldn't actually picture the accident. He could describe it. He knew the name of the street, what the weather was like, the color of the bike. But when he tried to put himself back inside that memory, truly inside it, there was nothing there. Just words. Just a story he knew without having lived it. That night, with the most controlled voice he could manage, he called his mother and asked about the scar. She said she didn't know of any scar. He lives as Daniel now. Not because he chose to. Not because he was convinced, but because there is no mechanism that he has found for proving you are who you believe you are. Every record says Daniel. Every person says Daniel. His own handwriting says Daniel. And Marcus Webb, that name, that person, that life, exists nowhere except inside his own head. No documents, no photos, no records of any kind. He searched. Some nights he still writes the name down. Marcus Webb. Stares at it. Tries to remember something. Anything. That couldn't have been fabricated. That couldn't be a false memory dressed up in detail. He can't find it. And the most disturbing part, the one that wakes him up in the middle of the night, in that bedroom, next to that woman, inside that life, is that he's no longer sure whether the horror is that everyone believes he is Daniel, or that he is starting to believe it too.